You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I can't hear you.
It's a good thing we take the music. The music doesn't come out well on the origin thing. And so what we do is we cut the music and then we cut where I start the show. So there you go. A little sidebar for those of you listening right now live. Hi, folks. I'm Chris Voss and the chrisvossshow.com. We're just testing you to see if you actually knew what was going on. And we clicked the button, but it didn't fully click through. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We certainly appreciate you guys. I'm just going to restart because I'm going to edit this part out. Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the chrisvossshow.com. Thanks for tuning in. We certainly appreciate you guys. Be sure to go refer the show to all your friends, or family, or relatives. We've got an amazing multi-book author. She's the author of about 20 books on the thing. She's probably going to have a lot more by the time we get done with this. Probably going to have 2 more books up by the time we get done with this show. So we'll be talking to her about her books and everything that she does. We'll also be asking you to go to iTunes and make a good referral on the show. Go to 5 stars. We certainly appreciate when you do that. Go to our groups on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all those crazy places the kids are playing. And of course, my speaker and consulting website, chrisvossleadershipinstitute.com. She's out with her latest book. It'll be October 11th, 2022. Yes. How do we get to the end of the year so fast? That's the only way I tell time is by having authors on the show to give us release dates. That's how I know where I'm at in the year.
Yes.
She's the author of the newest book. You want to pre-order it where you can get wherever fine books are sold. That Summer in Berlin by Lecia, Cornwall. She's on the show with us today talking about her books. And she's originally from Ontario. She now calls the foothills of Canada's Rocky Mountains home. She's the author of up to 20 novels. We'll get an exact count here in a bit. The Woman at the Front was her first historical fiction title. It's being followed by That Summer in Berlin, and she writes full-time. She loves gardening and knitting. She adopts stray creatures, usually cats. Be careful what you're adopting there. I don't know, man.
Yes.
I mean, if you stick with cats, I think you're okay, but don't do like wombats or something. I don't know why you do wombats, but it sounded funny at the time.
Rabbits are the most exotic.
There you go. Yeah, just don't. I mean, cats bite, but just stay away from anything that's poisonous. Like, don't adapt rattlesnakes or something. I learned that the hard way. Don't ask. She creates magical words from cardboard, paint, and glue. She's clearly an artist. And when she's on her work at her desk working on her next book, she's walking her dog. She loves dogs too, so that makes her a good person. Welcome to the show, Lecia. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Chris.
There you go. Okay, you can tell I'm a dog person. Give us your .com so we can find you on the interwebs and get to know you better.
I'm at leciacornwall.com. Yeah, easy to find. And you can find the links there to Facebook and Instagram and all the other social media. So.
And how many books exactly did you have, or do you have an exact count?
I keep losing track. I think it's about 19. I wrote historical fiction for a long time before I started or historical romance before I started writing historical fiction a few years ago. So yes, the romances are far more numerous at this point.
There you go. So do you hop back and forth? Do you write romance books? Do one romance book and do a historical fiction, or are you kind of turned and doing more of the historical fiction now?
I am firmly in historical fiction now, I think. Mm-hmm. I still love to read romance on occasion, and I think up plots now and then, but no, I'm firmly in the historical fiction. I find it a much more open genre about with far less conventions that you have to follow. So yes, I like that freedom.
Yeah, plus with historical fiction, she can get paid to go traveling to go study the place you're writing about. Is that what you do? Other authors tell
Well,
me that's what they're up to.
I'd love to, but all those cats and dogs and bunnies
Oh, that's right.
keep
Yeah.
me at home a lot of the time. So I
Bunnies
do a lot
too,
of
huh?
reading. One bunny, one
One
bunny.
bunny.
My
Yeah.
daughter brought him home during the pandemic, and he's quite a guy.
There you
So,
go. Just make sure the cats and dogs don't get a hold of him. That's the main thing there.
oh, he's in charge.
Oh, really? He's the boss.
Mhm.
I would like to see videos of that. That would make great TikTok videos. A bunny
It, yes.
ruling the house there. So you've written a lot of different books. And you've written about romance and now historical fiction. What motivated you want to write this book?
Well, I started researching different things about the 1930s, which is a decade I find really fascinating. And I mean, research takes three phases. First of all, you have the Magpie phase, where you're reading everything you can get your hands on, trying to find an idea for a story. And then you have the wormhole phase. You say, okay, well, that might make a good story. Let's start researching that. And you're looking for a specific idea or a specific piece of information, and you find like other ways to go. And then finally you get to the aha moment, which is when you've got the idea and you know it's going to make a good book. So I think the aha moment for this one was finding out that in the 1930s the British were sending their debutantes, like 18-year-old girls, over to Germany with the prospect of hopefully intermarrying and preventing a war that way. The upper
Really?
classes, yeah, the upper classes had the idea that if they intermarried, that there couldn't possibly be another war. But I mean, the aristocrats in both countries sort of thought, okay, well, we're going to let Hitler do his thing, get the people worked up. We're going to let him build the country up and fix the economy and give them pride again. And then when he gets too big for his boots, we're just going to knock him down. Well, of course, that didn't work. So.
Uh, in the
Um,
meantime, we'll sell him all the stuff that he can use, all the hardware and engines and planes and tanks so that
yep,
he can have a war with us. It was quite extraordinary when you listen to Churchill,
absolutely.
say, "What the hell are we doing here?
Yes.
I mean, we're making money so that they can bomb the hell out of us."
Yep.
Yeah, it's quite extraordinary what took place in that war. It's like if we
Yes.
started selling, it's like right now if we started selling military parts to Russia, and
Yes.
then
Exactly.
eventually they attack us, and we're like, "What? Yeah, we didn't see that coming.
Why did you
Like,
do that? Yeah.
why? Why?" And so there you go. Now, do your books follow a series? Is there a character that goes through the series, or each kind of a standalone?
No, the historicals are standalones at this point.
Hmm.
There are additional sort of ideas for follow-ons with other characters. I mean, sometimes you fall in love with a secondary character, and you just want to give them their own book, and that's sort of like they're inside your head telling me, okay, write my story. So it's yeah, there's a lot. Writers have a lot of voices in their heads. So
That explains why I wrote a book. Wait, do I have
we're never
schizophrenia?
lonely. Yeah.
I hear it's not schizophrenia if there's more than eight. If it's a personality, if you have eight personalities that are the voices in your head, it's just if you think that another personality outside yourself is talking to yourself, then that's
Okay.
schizophrenia. At least that's my
Oh,
excuse. I keep telling my psychiatrist.
I just keep telling people it's ADHD.
Yeah, ADHD. That's the other excuse I think I use. I have ADHD, and so do the other 10 people in my head, especially the one who keeps saying
Yep.
kill, kill, kill all the time that the judge says I have to ignore now as long as I'm wearing the ankle bracelet. Tell us, give us an outline, overview of this book, a little bit more in depth. I know with novels we can't really give away the middle and the ending because then you kind of know.
Well, it's about a young woman, an English woman, who gets the opportunity to take a trip to Germany on holiday during the summer of 1936 when the Olympics are on. And she's going to be the guest of some upper class, high ranking German family. So she's asked to kind of use her camera. She's a camera buff. So to use her camera to sort of take a look behind the scenes at what the Nazis might be really hiding, like preparations for war and weapons buildup and things like that. And she thinks that they think that, okay, she's just a young tourist with a camera. She's going to be fine. And if she gets caught, she'll just talk her way out of it. It's like, what, this whole thing? Kind of an idea. And she's sort of asked to do this by a British reporter who can't really go to the places that she can because they kept the press very controlled, of course. So she's working with him to try and find what's necessary. And she has to be very careful because there are people watching her. And of course, there's always a chance she will get caught or will get caught up in something she can't handle. And yes, you have to read the book and find out what exactly happens when that occurs.
So is she officially a spy or kind of a spy because she's working for...
I think she starts out as a very reluctant tourist, and she's sort of drawn into becoming to helping somebody, and then sort of proving her skills as a photographer. And then, yes, she is technically a spy.
So
there you go. Yes.
And so what sort of study did you do to come up with this and background sort of things? Delve us into some of the fun that was.
Well, I read a lot about the Olympics and a lot about the rise of Hitler, which was, heavy reading, and a lot about female photographers and a lot about the foreign correspondents that worked in Berlin during the 30s, which was very fascinating. So that's the wormhole thing. I mean, you start researching one thing, you think, but there's that, and I could add that to the story. And there's kind of a theme that runs through it of King Arthur. So sort of the once and future king, and she sort of thinks that her father has brought her up to believe that, the lake where she learned to swim was the real pool where Excalibur came from.
Oh, really?
So she has this sort of feeling in her heart that this is part of my legacy. This is the sort of once and future king, the saving the country. So that's a sort of a theme and a symbol that runs through the book.
Oh, wow, that's pretty interesting. It was a really interesting time in history in
Yes.
that era. And I imagine there's kind of a romantic feel to that era because it's still pre-war, and there's a certain beauty to Europe and Germany and Berlin.
Absolutely.
And there's everything hasn't been bombed to hell again. I imagine everything's kind of rebuilt at that point. And pretty good. That was really interesting to me that they would send young women over to marry up, and I suppose keep a war from happening. They're like, hey, we don't want a war in Europe. Send them wives. That'll fix them.
Well, these women came back, and when they were interviewed years later, it was like, I had the most marvelous time, and we didn't see anything. We just loved the way the men looked in the uniforms. We were dancing and going to parties and listening to the music. We weren't paying any attention to that little man with the mustache.
Yeah.
So it was sort of completely denied that there was anything any political involvement or support for Hitler there. So who knows?
So it didn't help at all that they did this, huh? It didn't
No.
help at all. Wow.
I'm not sure how many of them married into the family. I mean, like there were the Mitford sisters, which were a family of girls, and there was one of them Nancy Mitford was a writer, and Unity Mitford was a Hitler devotee. She actually went over and stalked a cafe until she got a chance to actually meet him, and she became one of his favorites.
Yeah.
And her sister was the mistress of the British equivalent of Hitler, the fascist union leader, Oswald Mosley, and she eventually married him. So, yeah, there were a couple of very famous, British Nazis. But yes, Hitler had a real thing for young English girls. So, And I think that was because he saw the connection with England. He admired England, and he wanted that that connection, so he encouraged it.
See, it's interesting how what's the correct word? The narcissism of some of these fascist leaders we see over the time, and how much they want to,
Yes.
they really long to be someone else or someone bigger. And part of the book is set during the 1936 Berlin Olympics as well.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That's sort of the backdrop of the book, and that was a very interesting Olympics. When they were awarded the Olympics in 1931, and when Hitler came to power, he said, "Well, we're not doing that. That's a silly thing."
Mhm.
And people like Joseph Goebbels suggested that no, it has propaganda value. We can make our debut on the international stage and show them how great we are,
Mm.
and how superior and how powerful. And Hitler still wasn't convinced, and they took him to tour an arena. And this arena had been built for an Olympic Games that was supposed to take place in Berlin in 1916. Of course, it was canceled because of the First World War. And they said, "Well, we can't really expand it very much." And he said, "What? I want it all torn down and rebuilt. I want a stadium for 100,000 people. It's got to be better than anything that's ever been done before in the modern Olympics." And that's sort of when he was convinced. So it wasn't necessarily entirely the propaganda value. It was also the chance to show off his, I don't know, good taste, architectural skills. You know, how he loved building things, or planning to build things that were, large and
Yeah, they have his name
very
on 'em or
impressive.
something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And this historically, this happened a lot. Women were used as spies during World War II.
Mhm.
I know we had one famous author on. She wrote a book about how women were used to smuggle stuff in and out and be spies and saboteurs.
Mhm.
Especially during this was she wrote a book about women who were doing this during when the Germans put the Jews in Jewish slums. They would
Mhm.
force them all to live in a very small, horrible place,
Yeah.
and they had to have checkpoints where you couldn't leave or come and go, but women would have the freedom to leave and go get food or goods or something, and they were kind of deemed like, well, they'll never do anything bad, and they were very good looking, so they would use their sexual charm to engage the sometimes they would bring like guns back into the thing, and because they were so cute, they would the German soldiers would, "Hey, do you want any help carrying that right back into the thing or out of the thing?"
Yeah.
They would be used in that way, and yeah, they would get away with a lot of stuff. Saboteurs, spies. Sometimes they would kill. I think wasn't there a famous story that was based, the movie Inglourious Basterds. I think they stole one of the
Yeah.
stories where a woman, if I recall rightly, and maybe this was the author who we had come in, she ended up killing or bombing, and some of them were really responsible for some stuff that they did.
Well, I love the story of Audrey Hepburn, that tiny, delicate, absolute gorgeous little actress. Well, during the war, she was, I believe she was Dutch, and she lived in the Netherlands, and she would lure Nazis in and then kill them. I mean,
Ah,
that demure little creature. So, and I think that's what makes women good spies, is that it's unexpected in a lot of cases.
hmm
Um, that people expect this of a man, but not necessarily of a woman. I mean, you think of Mata Hari. I mean, everybody's like, "Oh, yes, that's wonderful," and then the pillow talk gets repeated. Um,
hmm
and I mean, there are female photographers who did this too. I mean, there was one who was she was a devoted communist and before the war, and she married a British guy and moved to England, where she actually recruited uh, disaffected Englishmen to work for Stalin. And among the groups that she recruited were the Cambridge Five, so Kim Philby and his friends. Um,
hmm
who became some of the most notorious spies in English history. So I thought that was
Awesome
interesting.
sauce.
Yeah.
Awesome sauce. So this sounds like a lot of fun, a fun romp. And is it a beach read, or is it something you sit down and read through?
I hope it's something that people want to keep on reading, a page turner. But
Hmm
is it a beach read? It's a fairly serious subject. I'm not sure if I'm a beach read kind of person. I mean, I
hmm
love humor in books, but I try to sort of drive people on with things that are surprising, that they're not expecting to read. So
There you go.
um,
There you go.
put
Well,
it in a good space.
anything more we want to tease out on the book before we go?
I don't know. Is there? I love the details of the story, and if people can go and research things like one of the most fascinating parts of the story was the movie that Hitler had made.
Mm-hmm.
He hired a woman as his
Hmm.
as his director, and she had shot the famous Nuremberg Rally documentary. And if you've ever
Oh.
seen any pictures of the Nazis on parade, that's probably from that movie. And so she took a year before the games to actually create the technology, new film, new lenses, new methods of taking pictures, underwater photography, and she shot over 1 million feet of film during the games, and it took her 2 years to edit it, and it won amazing reviews all over Europe. And she came
Oh, wow.
to the U.S. to promote it. And unfortunately, her ship landed a few days after Kristallnacht had happened, which was a riot where Jewish people were targeted across the country. Their houses were broken.
Oh, wow.
Synagogues were burnt down. Storefronts were sort of damaged. That's why it's called Kristallnacht, the broken glass. And so no one would ever speak to her in the U.S. So she never became famous there. But for
Wow.
a woman to be so innovative in the techniques that she used, that they're still used in sports photography today, and to be so powerful as to get that kind of freedom to make a film like that in Germany, and within the very misogynistic world of film itself, she
Mm-hmm.
was a very interesting character. And yet she was manipulative and a liar and a lot of things, as well as a genius. So
Hmm.
that was one of the most fascinating characters I read about during this. So
Oh, wow. You would have think that they would have said, "Hey, she's got a lot of film that we could use to know what's going on in Germany and maybe good
well,
spy sort of data."
she was German, and she was very devoted to Hitler, and Hitler was very devoted to her,
Mm.
although she denied it later. So I don't
Wow.
think there was any way any of that was getting out of Germany.
There you
Or
go.
out of her very, I don't know, grasping hands. she
I don't know.
really didn't give
I would at
credit
least tap
usually.
that film so you could, hey, let's, yeah, we want to see your film. This is a great film. Oh, this is
Yeah.
interesting. Right?
Yep.
It's like good data. I mean, now we have satellites that do all that, but back then,
Yes.
whatever. But this is clearly why I don't run the government's war Pentagon. So this has been
Easier
wonderfully
if we don't.
insightful.
It's more fun to be an
Yeah,
author than a politician, I think. We could just make it up and
that's
get away
true.
with it.
That's true.
So,
Plus, when you work for the government, you got to follow rules, and I'm really bad at rules. Um,
yes.
it's been wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on, Lecia. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks. It was lovely to meet you, Chris, and to chat with you.
Thank you, and we'll look forward to your next book. Are you working on that yet, or
I'm in the Magpie phase. So we're
the Mag?
gathering ideas and
Oh,
and
okay,
yeah.
the
So
Magpie Phase. I like that. I might use
that's
that.
when you you're
What's the
looking for ideas.
So is that what magpies do?
They kind of go and they look for anything shiny and steal it. So
Ah,
that's that's isn't that what we do as
that's pretty
looking
much
for the
true.
best ideas and
For the
steal it and then
shiny,
twist it.
yeah.
So
I think Tom Peters called it creative swiping, where
yes.
corporations copy each other's stuff and then they try and make it better, so they put their
Yes.
own spin on it. So there you go. Give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs.
You can find me at leciacornwall.com, which is very easy, and all the links to everything you need to, including getting in touch with me if you'd like to, is there.
Thanks. And thanks for tuning in to my audience. Be sure to go to all of our groups on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all those crazy places the kids are playing. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys next time.